Browns back on the practice field here on Wednesday, continuing OTAs, their second and final week of OTAs. They'll have mandatory minicamp next week, 3 days. Mary Kay, let's get to what we saw today, and it really starts with Deshaun Watson. He looked really sharp, and especially when he was throwing to Marquise Goodwin. Had a deep ball to him early in a 7-on-7 period. Late had another one in the back of the end zone. Marquise thought it was a touchdown, so we'll call it a touchdown. But just seeing that deep ball connection with Marquise Goodwin's speed was really nice to see.
Yeah, we talked to offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt today for the first time this offseason, and he mentioned that there is a concerted effort to get that deep ball rolling this year. Now, last week, Deshaun missed a couple, but this week he hit both of those, as you mentioned, to Marquise. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in games this season, and you can really count on that speed, like you said, from Marquise Goodwin. It adds a whole new dimension to this offense.
Yeah, Marquise, a long jumper. He talked about how that kind of helps his speed, and he really wanted to come play with Deshaun Watson. They've trained together. They have the same agent, so he's very excited to be here. Now, we also heard from Bubba Ventrone today for the first time since he was hired, and of course, the new kickoff rule was very much a topic. He was ready to talk about it, Mary Kay. He's not thrilled with it, as you would expect. He doesn't love it when they kind of change the fundamentals of the game. He can't envision a world where there's no kickoffs and like the Super Bowl doesn't start with a kickoff. But he did also add he's not sure that they're really going to use the new rule that much. He kind of leans towards returning the football as opposed to using fair catch as something he doesn't really want to use and something he doesn't think players want to use.
Yeah, you hear from around the league that a lot of the coordinators and the coaches are really not liking the rule. Of course, safety is the reason they implemented it, but you have to wonder, is there another way to increase safety on those kinds of plays? What about those concussion helmets that we've been seeing out here at practice? Maybe they could do something like that. So we'll have to see. Sometimes they test out a rule for a season or in preseason or whatever, and they kind of see how it goes out on the grass, and then they pivot from there.
And of course, if you're sitting there like, hey, what is this new rule? I missed it. Players can fair catch kickoffs, and the ball comes out to the 25-yard line. It's akin to the rule that they've had in college the last couple of seasons. Now, we also heard from Jim Schwartz and Denzel Ward today, which was interesting because we saw Denzel line up in the slot a little bit today, Mary Kay. It seems like versatility is going to be very important across the board on this defense.
Well, this is something that I think they were going to be trying to do last year, and it never really happened, where they cross-trained a lot of guys and moved a lot of guys inside. What ultimately ended up happening was Greg Newsome became the primary nickelback, the primary slot corner guy. And now I think it is really genuinely going to be different. We talked to Jim Schwartz a lot about the versatility, about guys doing different things, about all different kinds of guys playing inside and outside. And even he admits that he won't know exactly how all the pieces and parts are going to fit together until they get out on the field.
And when you talk about that defensive line, what did you kind of hear from Jim today? And also, I know he said something about Greg Newsome as well. What else kind of stood out to you from Jim?
Well, a couple of things. When you're talking about the defensive line, and I've been writing this a lot, just studying up on what they might be doing under Jim Schwartz, that they do play a lot of 5-down linemen, and they're going to do that, and they'll rotate in 8 guys to keep them fresh. So that will be one of the advantages that they try to get there. I did ask him about Greg Newsome not being happy about playing slot corner all the time, and he said, first of all, my dealings with Greg have been great. He's willing to do whatever we want him to do, and it's not my job to make players happy.
One other note from Bubba Ventrone, because I know fans will be excited about this. He did tell us we're going to get to see some kicking next week. So we're going to see Cade York kick some field goals next week during mandatory minicamp. So, of course, we'll cover that. And we'll cover everything else that happened here today in Berea, all at cleveland.com/Browns.